Hello, friends. This week, I am going to talk of a certain aspect of personal development, which needs a lot of clarity and which we need to really skill ourselves in. And that is the art of communication. Today, in the first episode, what I'm going to really talk about is whether your communication is really communicating the right thing in the right way and whether you're doing enough to get that right. Okay. So today we have multiple modes of communication. We have video, as we are doing right now. We have phone, we have emails, we have text, we have one-on-one meetings, we have group meetings. There are various ways in which we communicate. But in spite of all this, in spite of so many options available, which you can use depending on our need and situation, communication still continues to be a big challenge. Okay, I know so many instances in personal life that I have encountered where lack of clear-cut communication has derailed projects, has spoiled relationships, and so on. So communication is very critical. And here I remember what George Bernard Shaw had once said, is that the greatest problem with communication is that we all think it has taken place, which is a big fallacy. Because just speaking to someone or telling them something using words or actions is not communication. Communication happens when the person to whom you are addressing your words or your actions has comprehended, has understood what you are trying to say, and has been able to clearly accept what you have said, the way you have wanted it to be. And once you do this, then we can say that communication has taken place. So communication is tremendously important, especially at work and of course in personal life always. Okay. And all managers and leaders will surely endorse this statement of mine, that communication is very crucial, it's very important. But they will all also agree that very often it fails to be effective. And when it is not effective, it is as though that communication never happened. And why does it not be effective? Let's look at some of the top reasons why communication is not effective. And the first and foremost reason that comes to mind is lack of context. If you are not very clear and you do not clarify the background or what the communication is about or what goes behind it, then that communication is going to be worthless. Because the opposite person is hearing words but not going to be able to associate with the communication that you're talking. You need to clarify when you communicate what is the importance level of that communication and what is the urgency level along with the importance. What is the timeline that person has? When such clarity is given, that communication makes sense. And you have to be clear that once you have spoken the words or performed the actions, that person to whom you are addressing those words or actions had understood the message very, very clearly with all the clarity that is required for that communication to be effective. Okay, and whenever you are having multiple conversations or multiple communications in various formats, it can be partly in video, partly in phone, partly by email, whenever it has happened, try to maintain a chain for each of those topics separately. Don't overlap them unless there are certain things which are common between two or more topics of the communication that you are. So always maintain a change, or every time you communicate, please have what is known as the subject line where you mention the topic that it is about. And if it's more than one topic, be sure to mention both of them. Okay. The other reason why communication is frequently ineffective is that there is lack of a dialogue, lack of a discussion. And because that person you are addressing, or you yourself at times don't ask questions to clarify or to understand whether that person has understood, that the communication becomes effective. So you need to ensure clarity and understanding by way of discussion when communicating. And you should encourage questions and address them properly and promptly, because questions help to remove doubt. When does a person question you? When he has some doubt. And therefore, it helps to remove doubt. And then that person to whom you are conveying digests and understands the information more clearly. And therefore, he is able to absorb the communication. And after communication, make sure that you clarify any questions that are there. Clarify certain basic things that we just mentioned by way of urgency, by way of what is the topic connected with, or what is it about, and give them specific takeaways. Spell it out. Don't leave it to the other, and we'll come to it in a minute why you should not leave such takeaways to the listener alone. Okay. And then there's a lack of connection at times. That's another reason why communication fails. Okay. Even in a personal meeting, now coming back to what we just said 30 seconds back, all communication, even in a meeting, is personal. There is nothing like a general communication. And the research shows, and the reason for this is that whenever somebody is listening to it, automatically, psychologically, what first comes into the person's mind is, what is it for me in this communication that I need to adapt and accept? Okay, so the same message that you give out in a meeting can be differently interpreted by different people who are there in the room. To give you a very quick example, say you're shutting down one of your factories. So you go to the factory, talk to the people there, maybe start talking with the leaders, whoever it is, whatever procedure you follow, and tell them that, okay, you're going to shut down the factory. Now, each and every one among there is going to think differently. Somebody might think, oh, great, now that they are shutting down, I will continue to get my retirement benefits, and I might get some payout because they're throwing me out, and I will be able to live a nice, peaceful, retired life. Somebody else who is in the same room, listening to the same message, doesn't care. He says, okay, I'll get the money and I'll be happy and I'll go and find another job and whatever else it is. And there'll be people in the room, especially who are in the initial stages of their career, who are worried about their future. They don't have enough savings. They're right now just started earning, and they don't know what's going to happen, whether they'll get a job, and therefore they're worried about the future. So the same message is looked at in three different ways, as we just gave in the example. So to strengthen your communication to, from, and between you and your team members, remember certain things, especially among your relatives at personal level. Provide context, as we just mentioned, encourage questions, build strong connections. And something we have not talked about now, which we shall start talking about now, is to build trust. Very, very important that you build trust, because then your communication goes to the next level of acceptance. So you need to build trust. Okay. Why does building trust help? Because once you build trust, it helps to develop deeper relationships. And therefore, it creates a sense of connection and belonging. When you have nice, deep relationships, that connection and a sense of belonging is very, very easy to create and very vital. And you get others to follow you, especially at work, when you're communicating clearly and you have built trust with your team members. They will follow you as one should follow a leader, and it will help you to collaborate across teams and across departments, depending on how spread out what is your area of influence and which of those areas you have created trust. So all these ingredients that we are talking of, deeper relationships and collaborating and everything, have a necessity of a clear and meaningful communication. Only then can all this happen. Okay, so now how to build trust? The first and foremost thing is to define your Lakshman Rekha. Okay, for people who don't know what Lakshman Rekha is, I'll give you this thing, simpler way of looking at it. Define and remember where your net is when you are playing a game. You have to stay within your court, the area of the entire court, which is your section, and play the game. You can't cross over to the other side of the net. Basically, Lakshman Rekha is an imaginary line from the Ramayana. Don't cross the line. As simple as that. And to be sure that you don't do this, please understand and accept three very, very distinct areas and realities of life. The three distinct areas are, first, in reference to communication. First is you have your thoughts. Then the second, which is the middle area, is where people have shared their thoughts, what they have said, what they have done. Basically, knowledge that is in the open domain, public domain, so to say. And the third is the other end of this thing, which is their thoughts. Now, till you don't know anything about their thoughts, do not comment on it or do not express it till they express it and they put it in the open domain. Don't assume you know what they are thinking and say, oh, I know what you're thinking, and then no. That's a real put off. So let's not do that. Okay. Also, to continue the topic about building trust, react appropriately to life, to these realities of life when you are communicating. Like for your thoughts, what do you do with them? You express them. You express them and share your thoughts and feelings so that it comes into the open domain and that other person understands you better. And own your mistakes, express your feelings. That creates trust, that you are fair, you are honest, you are transparent. When we talk about the central area, which is what is said and done, the open domain that we are talking, this is the only information you can use when you communicate. And you can comment only on this. You cannot comment on the next area, which is their thoughts. Okay, yes, you can ask questions, you can probe, but remember, you can't probe in such a way that you're overtly pressurizing that person. And clarify your intent when you're probing. Okay, give them the reason why you want to know what their thoughts are. It may be to help them, it may be just simply because you care for them. There could be what, but explain that. Spell out the reason, because then that person is more agreeable to working with you. Authentic communication is critical because that is the single string that attaches you and binds you in healthy relationships with others. If there is a wedge in the trust, if the trust factor is broken, it is very difficult to repair it. And in such situations, remember what I just told you. Authentic communication is the only way out. Why do we need to be so clear about communication? Because broken communication channels lead to strategies that are not aligned. If the communication is not clear, your strategies will not be aligned. Your project goals and deadlines will go for a toss. Because if your team has not understood the communication that you have given them, they will not know about the project. They will misunderstand the project. They will forget about the deadlines if not specified. So your project goals and deadlines will go for the toss. And in such situations, what happens? Employee engagement, your team engagement is reduced drastically. And when such situations arise, your team members will get frustrated and your employee churn will increase manifold. Okay. And when there is no proper communication, resolving any conflict or challenges that have arisen within you, your team, within two team members or anywhere else is very, very difficult to solve. So you need to be sure that your communication is clear. Also, to build trust, what are the things that hold you back? Okay, one of the first things is low emotional regulation. If when somebody is talking, or somebody might be just purposely egging you on to get you uptight and angry. Now, what happens in such a thing? You stop thinking with sanity and logic. Okay, and then that affects your reasoning. Okay, poor conflict management skills. If you cannot manage conflict with whomever or within your team, it affects both the individual as well as the team performance. And it leads to greater animosity if not resolved, the conflict is not resolved. And especially in personal relationships, it is the wrong approach to interpersonal relationships. If you don't have the right approach, at work, it can derail your career, it can derail your project and therefore your career. So interpersonal relationships and in personal life, it can destroy relationships. Whether it is with your spouse, whether it is with your children, whether it is with your parents, whether it is with friends. So you have to have the right approach to interpersonal relationships. Okay, I'll take another 3 minutes to build trust. Okay, another thing that is important is one tool that I love. And the tool is called the yes and technique. What is this technique? This technique simply states that yes and is a much better way of responding than no but. Why is that? Yes and is a very powerful communication and progressive tool. Okay, it especially helps when you are sitting and communicating or talking, discussing in a meeting, which is about creativity, which is about ideation, and when you're having uncertain conversations. Because yes and builds on rather ideas. Somebody has said something and you say yes and you are adding to it, you're building on whatever that person has said, and you're not destroying what that person has said. Okay, and it has a positive impact because it's not negative, it's a positive thing you're doing. So it has a very positive impact and it fosters creativity. That yes and might be something that really helps the project which you had not thought of. Okay, it fosters creativity and innovation rather than creating a negative impact and shutting down thinking, conversation, or opportunities are lost. Why? Because no but is a form of rejection of that initial thought and a disagreement with it. So let's not look at it like that. Okay. There is one more aspect which I will address next time. One of the most crucial skills that one needs for communication. If you can think of what it is, do message me and let me know. In the meantime, we'll continue this conversation on the next episode and let us see how it goes. Okay. Thank you, guys. I hope this is helpful. Looking forward to sharing the next episode with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.